Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Choice Evidence 1983, and their tagline is, "It dawned on me that he was a wizard." The original OP is Snooze61002, posted to r/Am I the Asshole, June 22nd, 2024. Am I the asshole for getting annoyed at my sister-in-law dying of cancer ruining my wedding? I don't intend for the title to be so harsh-sounding, but I don't know how else to put it. I'll also sound blunt, but I'm just posting the facts as presented. I'm marrying my partner, Alice, who's from another country. Her sister, Beth, is dying of cancer. It's heartbreaking. She's a young mother and wife. Her diagnosis was about 4 years ago. When she was first diagnosed, she was given 1 to 2 years. Since we were in a different country, as she, Beth, remained in her home country with her family after her sister Alice immigrated, we saved up some money and traveled to say goodbye to her. It was about the 1.5-year mark when we went to say goodbye, and we had gotten engaged soon beforehand. So we also went over to visit some of the family and asked them how long they needed to save to come across for our wedding, as our dollar is much stronger than theirs. They said 2 years. So, that was agreed. We spent a month with her, laughing, lamenting, spending as much quality time as possible with her. By the end of the trip, though, with the chemo, she was exhausted. We said our heartbreaking goodbyes, assuming to never see her again. And then, she made a miraculous recovery with a less than 1% chance of it happening, which was awesome. We, along with her other family members who had also immigrated, such as her father and brother, decided to put money together and support her to move over here to spend the rest of her life with us. That was about a year ago. Now, my partner and I are getting married in 2 weeks. All of our family are coming to visit. It's a big, joyous occasion with lots of travel. We've forked out thousands to help her family get here, and they're all staying for a month or so to celebrate our wedding and spend time with us. 2 weeks ago, Beth got a bad diagnosis. They found lumps, and they said she has about a year left to live. She, for obvious reasons, didn't handle this well and lashed out at us and our wedding, telling us not to talk about it around her. My partner has always kind of lived in her older sister's shadow, so she was really excited to be celebrated and made a fuss of for once. But Beth has told everyone about her diagnosis and has started saying, "This is the last time I will see most of you." Now, the focus is completely off my partner and our wedding, and is absolutely about Beth. I feel heartless and heartbroken, but I'm frustrated by this. She has been going out of her way to make sure the people who are coming across, who we have paid thousands for flights, not that it matters that much, are spending as much time with her as possible, as this is the last time she will see them. Now, this period of joy and celebration has an undeniable black cloud hung over it, and people very obviously have stopped making my partner feel special. On top of this, Beth has maintained her stance that we not talk about our wedding around her. But the big issue is that Beth got married during COVID, so never got a father-daughter dance. She wants to have one at our wedding after my partner has a father-daughter dance, with her own song, which, to be honest, sad as fuck. I have said no, because my partner wanted to say no but felt too guilty, so I had to be the bad guy. I also told my partner that if we're not to talk about our wedding around her sister, then I don't want her sister talking about her dying around us. Now I'm being called an asshole. I do absolutely feel like one, but I also feel like this is grossly unfair to ask us to brush our wedding under the carpet because of this. Am I the asshole? Edit. Sorry, I just woke up and will work through the many comments as fast as I can. I really appreciate all the views and discussions. It's precisely why I came here. Genuinely. Thank you. Am I the asshole with an H has no consensus bot. OP was not the asshole. Relevant comments. Complete it. Are you sure she has cancer again? She might not be truthful. OP responds, "You're right. I'm really struggling with this thought, but if she makes another miraculous recovery, I'm going to feel like a massive dick, because everyone will be celebrating, and to be honest, I'll be furious, jaded, and distrusting. My father is a very distrusting man. He raised this exact same point, and He said he's not sure he believes the diagnosis is as bad as she's saying it is. But we'll see, in the worst possible way. Comment from user Mizzy Von Muffling. If true and she was given a year to live, she could give her sister that one fucking day and stay quiet, but no. She makes it about herself, her missed dance, her missed whatever, and ruins the day for you guys, that way assuming she's telling the truth. I get weird vibes. If I were you, I'd go to the courthouse/elope without telling anyone and cancel a celebration and have one way later. OP responds, we considered this. My partner had a breakdown over it and said she wanted to do this. I asked her if she was sure. We had a conversation and she changed her mind. We've done too much, prepared too much, gotten too excited for the whole time together to just pull the plug. OP on what kind of cancer his sister-in-law has at the time and if it was a confirmed diagnosis from the doctor. OP responds, lymphoma, stage 4. No, we've only heard from her. Gang, I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the title, I was very much thinking that this would end up being the boat of like, oh, wow, OP's gonna be a really shitty person. And now I'm kind of sitting here like, Update 1, July 8th, 2024. People asking for updates about my post a couple of weeks ago. The lead up to the wedding was a bit nightmarish. Sister-in-law tried to tell someone they couldn't come to the wedding because of something they said. They told sister-in-law that she could only afford a really nice new car because she and her partner are staying with her dad, and he's paying all her medical bills. We curbed that by changing our seating plan last minute, asking the person to come, and he still came, thankfully. Then the plan was to go up to the town the wedding was in for a few days for my wife to spend time with her family. We paid for her little brother and little cousin's accommodations because they couldn't afford it. The week of the wedding, sister-in-law convinces both little brother and cousin to only travel up for only the wedding, not to stay with the family. Sister-in-law wasn't traveling up because of some vague and changing reason. There was a fight on their family side. It supposedly got resolved and sister-in-law got given the hard word. But then, little cousin didn't come up with family and stayed home with sister-in-law. So I told my partner to directly pass this on to sister-in-law. I was in different accommodations for the lead-up. If there is a medical event, I'll call and cover the cost of an ambulance at the smallest hiccup. If she plays up, her husband will take her home immediately and without argument, or myself and the other 2 ex-bouncer groomsmen will kick them out. If her family don't want this to happen, then they will get this sorted before I do because they've disappointed me with their soft approach, and now they've all been warned. And then the day went off without a hitch. It was beautiful, perfect, happy, fun, and everything we wanted it to be. No drama, no major issues, and my new wife loved every moment. She was spoiled and made to feel special. Thank you for all the suggestions and kind words. We assigned mother-in-law to sister-in-law for the day. There was almost a hiccup when sister-in-law's uncle reversed her brand new car into my ring bearer's car and sister-in-law started firing up, but it was curbed. A beautiful day because of your guys' support, so truly, thank you. Relevant comments. Cheesecake 1823. Info, did sister-in-law and father-in-law dance? If so, what song? I personally didn't question it, but reading the other comments, I feel obligated to ask. Did you get confirmation that either diagnosis was real? OP responds, they danced when the dance floor opened up to everyone, and they were happy with that. It was a happy song though. We have confirmation of the diagnosis, but not the severity. The cancer has returned though, but we're not sure how bad yet. New post entirely, July 13th, 2024, 5 days after the previous. Am I the asshole for completely cutting off my dying sister-in-law and telling her family not to contact me? I'm the same person who had the wedding dramas. While the wedding went off without a hitch, we've had a major problem since. Feels like season 2 of a friggin' soap opera. I'm sorry this is a little long, but there's a lot of context. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. Recently, my partner and I got married, and sister-in-law made the whole process as difficult as possible. Here's the link. Please read this for full context. While we were visiting family the other day, I was relaxing on a couch which sits below a ledge in a lounge, so you couldn't see me from the dining room. I was there with wife and wife's family. but older sister-in-law didn't realize I had come with. My partner and her little sister, not the same sister-in-law, came into the dining area, in tears, and sat down next to their mom. Before they could say anything, older sister-in-law came in and talked to them with a venom I had never seen. She was shouting at them and talking to them like they were children, telling them to never dare walk away from her again during an argument. There was a viciousness at a level that I'd never tolerate being spoken to like, from anyone. The argument happened because we had come to pick up the nephew, son of older sister-in-law, from school so that sister-in-law could rest. I'll give more info on this fight and comment. Older sister-in-law told her family it's a privilege for them to babysit her child, and that if they're going to try and help, then they need to do it how she asks, when she asks. She spoke to my wife like she was scum several levels below her. When I stood up and older sister-in-law saw me, she jumped with shock and then immediately stormed out of the room. I stood up and said, "We're leaving." In the car, I said to my wife that if sister-in-law ever spoke to her like that again, there would be harsh, firm boundaries put in place. Later, we received a message from sister-in-law's husband saying we were being selfish and making the whole family visit about us and our wedding, which was what it was originally about when everyone planned to come. They were visiting for our wedding. The problem is that this has been happening for months, and I feel like an idiot because when my wife told me about it, she downplayed it. Sister-in-law's family all kept saying, "She's dying, it's affecting her mind," or "Let's just move past it so we can enjoy the time we have left with her." And sister-in-law's treatment of my wife has gotten worse, and worse, and worse. Sister-in-law keeps trying to convince people not to spend time with us while they're here. She exempts herself from family plans and then makes new plans excluding my wife, and tells people my wife is being greedy with others' company. My wife came home yesterday in tears, saying she had considered driving her car off a bridge because of how much sister-in-law has broken her heart. My wife went to say goodbye to one of her uncles who was flying out, and sister-in-law apparently did the same thing as the day before, but worse, according to a couple of the witnessing family members. I had to hold her while she sobbed uncontrollably for 15 minutes, asking me why her sister was doing this to her when all she had done was try to love her. This is the part that may make me an asshole. I put a message into the group chat I'm in with her immediate family, saying, to cut a long story short, I will not talk to any of you until you start to hold sister-in-law accountable for her actions. Any promises of unifying our families was a lie until sister-in-law apologizes and shows she's going to cut this shit out. That my wife's unrelenting kindness is being exploited for weakness, and my wife is psychologically unsafe around her own family. That I swore in my vows to protect my wife, and that I have no interest in being part of a family who treat each other like this. I said I'd be leaving the conversation. I don't want anyone to contact me unless it's to apologize to my partner and explain how things will be different moving forward, and not to add me into any group conversations. I blocked any form of contact access that sister-in-law had. My wife didn't want me to send the message because she didn't want to make things worse. I told her things were being made worse by her family's unwillingness to call out sister-in-law because she's dying. And my partner told me I can do what I feel I need to do, but her family will be upset with me. Now they've called a family meeting, and I've refused to go until my wife is apologized to and the family outright promise to hold her sister accountable. Her family are all very upset at me for saying what I said about our two families joining, and that I'm being harsh to sister-in-law, who is dying. My own family think I'm being too harsh, except my dad and older brother, who think I'm making the right choice. Am I the asshole? So, on a side note, just from a personal philosophy standpoint, why would you want to spend your last year alive making everyone around you hate you and be exhausted by you to the point where when you finally close your eyes for the last time, it's a sigh of relief? Part of me wonders if maybe she just simply is using the cancer diagnosis as an excuse. Maybe it's something easily operable, like just a mole or something that can easily be removed, and she's claiming that it's terminal, and is now using this as an excuse to be mean to everyone because, oh, but I'm dying from cancer, so how dare you? I only pose that because I can't even imagine spending my last year alive being this cruel and vindictive to my family. Anyways, additional information from OP regarding the first fight. OP, for the interested, the context for the first fight. Sister-in-law asked us the night before to pick up our nephew from daycare so that she could rest for the day. We told her we couldn't. We had plans to show family who were visiting some of the sights of our city. But we were actually done a lot earlier than we thought we would be, so we tried to call sister-in-law or her hubby. Both weren't answering. So we went to sister-in-law's house to check and see if she still wanted us to take him. She lost her shit, saying that if we want to help her, it's on her terms, that we should consider any time we spend with her son to be a privilege, and that we weren't to disturb her unless we knew she was open to us visiting. This was all said when she didn't realize I was there, and I deeply regret saying nothing at the time. I had hoped the family would put her in her place. Relevant comments. Craptastic Life comments, is it possible her cancer has spread to her brain? It can drastically alter a person's behavior. Opie responds, to be honest, yes, this is possible, which I struggle with greatly. I also empathize with the fact she's dying and her sister is just starting life, sister-in-law's words. But I feel this ferocious protectiveness for my wife. Update, July 25th, 2024, give or take 12 days later. Would I be the asshole for getting involved in the fights between my sister-in-law and her little sister and mother? This also serves as another update. I want to make clear, though, that I'm not karma farming. I don't expect upvotes, but I genuinely need the sage advice this Reddit provides that has helped me navigate this incredibly complex issue. Link to that below. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. I still really struggle with this whole situation because it's heartbreaking for her, her husband, and her son. Recently, she and I fell out big time over the treatment of my wife, who I felt the need to protect. To cut a long story short, there was a family meeting about all the fighting happening. My wife's parents are separated, and she has a half-sister on her mom's side. But she doesn't see her like that, she's her sister through and through. The father's side all had a meeting, and they agreed to end the fighting and not tolerate sister-in-law's behavior. I was at the house when it happened, but not a part of the meeting. I was there to make sure. If I heard screaming and shouting, I would go and get my wife out of the situation. The sister-in-law came to me and apologized. She sobbed and begged for me to forgive her. I felt uncomfortable for sure, but she seemed genuine. Ever since, she has been incredibly kind, careful, and gentle with my wife. As far as I'm concerned, issue is currently settled. It may flare up again in the future, but my wife got an apology, and she's being treated better. I was reflecting on the situation with her mother and little sister. I'll call her LSIL, little sister-in-law. When I talked to them about it, they opened up that sister-in-law was treating her mom and little sister-in-law exactly how she had treated my wife. That she had stopped behaving like that to my wife, but hasn't stopped the behavior with little sister-in-law and mother-in-law. Apparently, when I'm not there, she still screams at them, gaslights them. She'll say she wasn't screaming at them or even outright says, "No, I didn't say that," about something she said word for word, and uses her son's relationship with them as a means of control. She also demeans little sister-in-law big time, talking to her like a toddler, saying that little sister-in-law doesn't understand big feelings. To her son, even though little sister-in-law is doing a PhD. Little sister-in-law and mother-in-law fly home in a couple of days, and sister-in-law may never see them again. But it also means sister-in-law has been banking on the fact that they won't be able to confront her permanently because she doesn't have to live with them. Little sister-in-law and mother-in-law have tried meetings with sister-in-law, but it's not working because sister-in-law knows they'll be leaving soon. Part of me says that this is no longer my issue. Part of me says that they're also my family and I should protect them. Part of me says I'll make the whole situation worse by getting involved. I also don't want to disempower mother-in-law and little sister-in-law, but at the same time, I can see the corner they're being put in. They've tried to stand up to her, but she cuts them off. But I also don't want to overstep. My wife is as conflicted as I am, and probably more worried about disturbing the fragile peace she finally has. Would I be the asshole if I got involved and told sister-in-law her treatment of little sister-in-law and mother-in-law isn't okay, and I won't accept it? Like I say, you don't have to upvote me, but I would appreciate advice in the comments. Update, October 2nd, 2024, 2.5 months later. Am I the asshole for not forgiving my dying sister-in-law? This issue has our family torn, both mine and the in-laws. I also want to say that this story involves someone dying of cancer. I know people on this sub are in that same position, and I honestly and earnestly don't mean to disrespect that. I wholeheartedly feel for those of you who are struggling with this, especially as I'm professionally involved in end-of-life and grieving process for families who lose loved ones. My sister-in-law is dying of cancer. She was sick for a couple of years. She lived in another country. We flew over to say goodbye to her, but then, a couple of months later, she responded to the chemo and was cancer-free within 6 months. We flew her over to where we live, where she now lives with her husband and their young son. My partner originally nagged me to get engaged because she wanted to have her sister at her wedding, or at the very least, involved in planning it. Among other reasons to get married, of course. They were, and are, very close. I wanted to get married, so we got engaged before we went on the trip to say goodbye. Her sister got very sick very quickly, so it looked unlikely she'd be at the wedding. But she got better. She had a 1% chance of getting better, so a miracle to say the least. We spent time planning the wedding with her, thinking it was the last time we'd see her. And we set a wedding date for 2.5 years after the trip, so my wife's family could save up for travel. Though we did pay for some family who wouldn't have been able to afford it. Fast forward to the wedding, and a month before everyone starts arriving, sister-in-law gets sick again. She refuses chemo and chooses end-of-life/comfort medication, fentanyl, CBD, etc. This is where the problem started, and I did consult this sub. She made our wedding as absolutely difficult as possible. She was angry and bitter, she told my wife she was being selfish, that it was her last chance to see family, and that my wife had plenty of celebrations to look forward to without her. They're born on the same day 2 years apart. She screamed, shouted, and demeaned my wife. She intentionally didn't go to wedding events and catch-ups, and would make people choose between her and us. She constantly fought with anyone who was interested in or helped plan/be a part of our wedding. She didn't quite ruin it, but she made it really difficult and cast a permanent shadow over our whole wedding. I told my wife that while I understand she's dying, she did permanent harm to my and her relationship, and that I wouldn't forgive her for trying her outright best to ruin a once-in-a-lifetime occasion for us. She apologized to us once everyone had flown home, but I don't think she meant it at the time. That was a few months ago, and now sister-in-law will very likely die before the new year. The doctor's reports aren't great. Her body isn't handling the sickness well. She's almost bedridden, and she started making her plans for when she passes. She's going to go through the process of euthanasia. She said she wants her husband to take their son out of the room, and for my wife to hold her hand because she doesn't want to go alone. She's scared, heartbroken, and in regards to this issue, deeply sorry for how she acted. She keeps crying and apologizing for it, and I do think she's come to regret it. But she repeatedly abused my wife, and I mean serious abuse. For the month that the family were all here from overseas, she manipulated people, tried to prevent them from seeing us, and made my wife feel horrible anytime she saw her happy. I didn't initially believe she was as sick as she is, but I have to bite the bullet and admit I was wrong on that front. I had resigned myself not to forgive her for some time because of how much harm she committed against my wife. Now that she's dying, with not much longer left, she's been apologizing to us for what she did. The thing is, I don't want to forgive her. I'm still angry for what she did to us. I'm angry that, at the time, she was ruling the family like a tyrant, and she has permanently made my wife feel guilty on her own birthdays. I'm angry that she proactively tried to ruin our once-in-a-lifetime wedding, and I don't want to forgive her, but my wife wants me to, so that her sister can die with peace in her heart. I've been struggling for a week now, but I learned that a couple of her other family members are feeling the same way as me, though they don't want to talk about it. She had abused and isolated them as well. I can't pretend to forgive her. I'm a terrible liar, and you can see through it from a mile away. In my heart, I'm still angry at her. If I can't find a way to forgive her before she dies, am I the asshole? Update, October 28th, 2024, 3.5 weeks later. Am I the asshole for threatening to call the police on my sister-in-law? Cutting straight to the chase, my sister-in-law is dying of cancer and she's becoming frail and sickly. She's still at a stage where she's relatively active, although for long periods of walking and standing, she does need a wheelchair. But it's not quite as simple as calling the police on her. It's quite complicated, so please do read below. My wife, whose sister-in-law has been abusive to in the past, can't stop forgiving her because she's dying. I've gotten involved when I'm present in the past, but sister-in-law has since stopped doing it when I'm around. I refused to leave my wife's side for some time, but of course, I can't always be there. It was my sister-in-law's son's 5th birthday on the weekend. Sister-in-law kept talking about how this is the last birthday she'll get to spend with him, and she wanted to make it really special. My wife volunteered to help sister-in-law get the party ready. This ended up being a 16-hour day where my wife pushed my sister-in-law around malls, bought things for the party, and then baked a huge multi-layer cake and cupcakes. When I finished work, I went over to my father-in-law's, where sister-in-law is staying, and offered to cook a big dinner for everyone to alleviate stress and pressure. So, after work, I went and cooked for 4 hours. My wife also has a condition, rheumatoid arthritis, where if she's standing for long periods of time, her feet get incredibly sore and swollen. Sister-in-law was picking fights with the whole family by the time it was dinner time. She picked a fight with her stepmother, her father, her husband, her little brother, but not me and my wife yet. However, once I had cooked dinner, she refused to eat it and left to go blow balloons up in the garage because I cooked it too late. The problem was that it was slow-cooked beef, and while they were out shopping, they only arrived back at 4 p.m. with the meat. So I put it on straight away and dinner came out at 8 p.m. But then, after finishing the balloons, to cut a long story short, sister-in-law came and had a go at us for taking so long to cook and to bake. My wife then complained about having sore feet and needing to sit down for a break. About 15 minutes. Sister-in-law took issue with it, and sister-in-law replied with, "Oh, you're sore? Try being me." My wife started to stand up and press the issue about how her feet were swollen and blue, and sister-in-law said to her, "Stop being so goddamn dramatic." This was at about 10 p.m. Wife had been there since 7:30 a.m. when everyone else was asleep. I'd had enough, so I stood up for my wife and said, "We're only here as a favor to you. We don't have any obligation to help with your son's birthday party." She didn't like this, so she threatened to go and get her husband and make things get really ugly if I wanted to. She has bragged in the past about her husband's willingness to violence and how he's sweet until he's pushed, and then he fights to kill. The first time she threatened it, she said it and turned away, so I waved it off. She came out and had another go at my wife. I told her to back off. She tried to kick us out. I told her it's not her house, it's her father's, and my wife is his daughter too, so has every right to be there. She then said, again, "Okay, you don't want to leave? Then I'll get my husband involved and things will get really messy." To which I replied, "Okay, but I'll give you the choice of response. I can either bring the dog up from downstairs, we have a very protective doggo, medium size, a collie and bulldog, or I can call the police. Your choice." Early on in my study, I was a doorman, so I'm capable of self-protection, but I absolutely hate it, and considering their 4-year-old was in the house and still awake, getting in a fight was not on the cards, especially as it would cost me my career, as below. Another issue is that my sister-in-law provably lies and has repeatedly lied to us all. Her family just turns a blind eye to it. I can't stress how easily and willingly she lies. For example, I overheard her trying to get her husband to become violent by saying, "The police are being called because I didn't want OP to be involved in the argument, so now he's calling the police for asking him to stay out of it." For the record, I didn't and wasn't calling the police, but I would have if her husband came out. There has been a huge blowout. I was fairly confident I had done the right thing, but now my wife's family are all saying I overreacted and that it's completely not okay for me to threaten to involve the police. They're asking how a frail, sickly 5'1" woman could possibly be enough of a threat to warrant the police, and asking what she could actually do. But they're not saying this to me, they're saying it to my wife, so I don't want anything to do with them. For context, they are immigrants on visas. A police incident would see them very likely deported. Though, to me, this just means that sister-in-law would lie as much as she possibly could to the police. I did not want to have to get violent because I don't like violence, and I'm a chaplain for our national paramedicine organization, and I'd lose my job that I've trained for the last 8 years, worked for 15 years, and have 2 more years of study to join the priesthood. I would lose all of this. Did I overreact by threatening to call the police? Am I the asshole? Next update, May 12th, 2025. Am I the asshole for not supporting or caring about my sister-in-law, who has cancer, during her separation? To cut a very, very long story short, my sister-in-law is an abusive narcissist. She proactively tried to jeopardize mine and my wife's wedding and marriage, and she has abused my wife on multiple occasions. I was there twice when it happened. The root cause of this abuse, sadly, is that sister-in-law has cancer and is extremely angry and jealous of my wife's life and happiness. Sister-in-law has routinely tried to shit in my wife's life and become incredibly possessive of the entire family and essentially demands the focus stay on her every occasion. It's my last ever Christmas, Easter, son's birthday. She also shares the same birthday as my wife, 3 years apart. This has been the case for 5 years now. The first abuse was a bit shocking because up until it happened, sister-in-law had come across as this soft, gentle, caring sweetheart. But when her and my wife had an argument, sister-in-law was angry at wife for spending time with family who had flown over for our wedding, and my wife walked away from the argument, sister-in-law stormed out and literally started screaming things like, "How dare you walk away from me? Who do you think you are?" It was my first time witnessing it, so I didn't want to disempower my wife and left her to respond. But when I saw she had shut down, I got up, put my arm around her, said to sister-in-law, "We're leaving," and guided my wife out. It was my biggest regret that I hadn't stood up to sister-in-law. Sister-in-law then strategically continued to abuse my wife when I wasn't there, and drove my wife to the point of self. The second time it happened, I did fight with her, and the fight was a huge blowout. Again, to cut a long story short, wife had spent from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. slaving over getting our nephew's birthday ready. And at 11 p.m., sister-in-law came out and abused her for it, saying she was trying to replace her as her son's mother, even though sister-in-law had asked for all the help. Sister-in-law threatened to get her husband and become violent with us. I threatened to call the police. Things ended, and we haven't spoken since. Wife also finally took huge steps back from their relationship. Which leads us to today. Sister-in-law's husband is leaving her because he doesn't like how she treats their son. My wife came to me and said that through everything, it's still her sister. She feels horrible for her, and she wants to be kind to her and support her. This means breaking one of our current rules that sister-in-law is not allowed near our home because of how dangerous she is. She has fabricated lie after lie about our fight, and some of them have been extremely damaging. I do not at all trust her to be around us in case there's a one-to-one situation, and she invents a damaging enough lie to impact my career. She's a small, frail woman dying of cancer, and she has used this to try and cut my wife and I off from her family many times since our fight by making up the most phenomenal bullshit. Apparently before I left, I stood there and verbally abused her, calling her the C word and physically threatened her, which was impossible because I left with my wife. Unfortunately, for her sister-in-law, her behavior has been so toxic for so long that most of the family don't care about her situation anymore, and thankfully, don't usually believe her. The reason I might be the asshole is because when my wife came to me to explain it's time to let bygones be bygones, and maybe by showing her kindness during this incredibly difficult period, we're being the bigger person. And also, she's still my sister at the end of the day, and I love her. My response was, I don't give a shit. She's made her bed, she can sleep in it. I said I stand by the rule. She's not welcome in our home. And this saddens my wife because we moved into our first ever home 3 months ago, and sister-in-law is the only person who hasn't seen it. My wife says I'm being too harsh and that we're not cruel people and we don't have to stoop to sister-in-law's level. I've told my wife I don't want that nutcase anywhere near me or my house. Am I the asshole? Before the final update, just want to give a quick little bit of 2 cents. First off, while it is tedious, I do understand why OP is giving a recap every single update. It might be unintentional, but it's because a lot of the time, I've seen Redditors just completely ignore context given via links and just leave a comment that completely shows they didn't bother to look at the prior context. Additionally, from an interesting standpoint, it also kind of gives us a further look into what OP is thinking and going through, and also gives us the kind of retrospective of someone who had been thinking on this for a little bit of time and is now able to actually provide either more details or further cement prior details of, I didn't mention this, but this also happened. Such as the comment about the sister-in-law claiming OP's trying to steal her son from her. That is 100% one of those comments that slip through the cracks when you're retelling it initially, but then later on, when you're revisiting it with your wife, she comments, yeah, she also said I was trying to steal my nephew from her. And it's one of those, oh fuck, she did say that. Yeah, that is absurd. Can't believe I forgot that. But funny enough, I cut this out from the previous update that I recorded, but now I'm adding this here because I wonder if this is also a contributing factor to them splitting up. If I found out my significant other was telling people, don't let me get my husband involved because he's peaceful normally, but when he fights, he's fighting to kill. I would not want to maintain that relationship because now in my head I'm thinking, how many fucking times have you told people that? And how many people think that I'm now the kind of person who is going to try to kill them if I get into an altercation with them? Just, yikes. Most recent updates so far, June 14th, 2026, 13 months later. Am I the asshole for getting annoyed at my sister-in-law dying of cancer, ruining my wedding? To cut a very long story short, this is an ongoing saga that I have previously posted about in this sub. For those with really good memories, sister-in-law claimed to be dying of cancer and abused my wife really badly. I have been no contact with sister-in-law after an incident where she completely and utterly abused my wife, screaming in her face and threatening us with physical violence when I stood up to her. Sister-in-law has never apologized, has never said she's going to stop doing it. She has since repeatedly abused other family members, it's every couple of weeks, and has continued to try and pick fights with my wife, who is low contact, but not no contact. When I say she is abusive, I don't know how to portray how truly evil she is. She will scream at someone telling them they want to steal her child and accuse them of some of the worst possible things you could accuse someone of, and then turn around, refuse to apologize with something like, we both got angry, we both said we shouldn't have, but we have to move forward because of my cancer. I think she has a narcissistic personality disorder. Whenever my wife is happy or achieving, her sister demeans and bullies her over anything she can, and says things like, I'm so proud of you because you weren't always the smart one, but look at you now. Sister-in-law's family enable her because she has cancer. She does. And every time they stand up to her, she's suddenly on death's door and ill. She has, no exaggeration, been direly unwell that it might be time to say goodbye 8 times over the past 3 years. She has had a 1% chance of recovery 5 times now. Whenever she pulls this crap, I hear the same line over and over. You don't want to have regrets when she's gone. I've told my wife she'll have more regrets trying to maintain a relationship, and she agrees. But every time sister-in-law abuses someone, she's forgiven without apology by the rest of the family, who inevitably start guilt-tripping my wife on sister-in-law's behalf. It's an exhausting cycle. To the point, my wife has maintained a relationship with sister-in-law's son, wife's nephew, 5. He's a really sweet little boy, and he's spent his whole life so far being told his mummy is going to die very soon by his mum and dad. I've noticed that sister-in-law heavily controls contact to my nephew and then hides behind him. Just this week alone, sister-in-law was in a shit-stirring mood, so when my wife asked if nephew wanted to spend time together, she replied with, "Oh, we're back to talking like normal now, are we?" My wife held her ground. Shocker, it turned into a fight. Sister-in-law's husband got involved, and now they're both telling my wife she can't see nephew until she starts being nice to his mother. And that nephew doesn't want to see her until she is, which is to say, my wife has to stop standing up for herself. I've had enough, and to be honest, was probably too harsh, but I've lost count of the amount of times this exact scenario has played out. Sister-in-law starts trouble, lies and says horrible things. For example, I work with children, so she went around telling people I abused her and her son, refuses to front up, dangles a relationship with nephew in person's face, and then we all move forward. It's cyclical. It's constant. She does it with everyone. I have no idea what to do for her son other than wait until she's gone and then try and support him. Whenever he's come over with wife, I've played with him, spent time in the garden with him, or just hung out together. I feel horrible for him. I told my wife to accept that she cannot have a relationship with her nephew until her sister is dead, and that she needs to stop fueling and enabling this cycle. The problem is that my wife is really soft-hearted and cares really deeply about nephew, so her sister keeps using that against. But at this point, I don't care anymore. I'm tired of consoling my wife over the same issue. I'm tired of her sister being anywhere near our life, and I'm tired of nephew being successfully weaponized against my wife. So I told her to go complete no contact with them, and then see where things stand when sister-in-law is dead. It feels horrible just writing, which is why I'm wondering, am I the asshole? Too long didn't read. Sister-in-law uses a relationship with her son to abuse people and then lure them back in. I told my wife to completely cut them all off. Am I the asshole? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Not the asshole. She needs to go no contact. Sister-in-law seems like a horrible person, and I feel so sorry for the nephew. Hopefully he doesn't grow up to be like his mother. I'm assuming the cancer is terminal. OP responds, we've always been told the cancer is terminal, but sister-in-law tightly controls medical information. Not even her husband can go with her to appointments. I wish beyond anything else, wife would go no contact. Commenter 2. She accused you of child abuse and your wife still wants contact with her? OP responds, yeah, this is a bit of a tough point. My wife truly doesn't want anything to do with her, but her sister is incredibly proficient at manipulation. So she starts to manipulate people into spending less time with my wife. If my wife stands up to her, she'll tell my wife's brother and sister a mountain of lies about a fight they've had, and at this point, they just can't be bothered picking a side. So they stop talking to my wife until things are sorted. Sister-in-law holds people emotionally hostage incredibly well, and unfortunately, I never thought it should be so, my wife is really soft-natured and family-oriented. So she is successfully held hostage. And if it doesn't work, sister-in-law escalates it more and more by telling people if they spend time with wife, then sister-in-law will cut them off, and they'll regret it when she's dead soon. Commenter 3. Have you ever said to one of these other family members who are causing problems, if you're weak enough to let a narcissist manipulate you, do it elsewhere? OP responds, I have tried to talk to the family about it many times, but they very bluntly say, I don't want to be involved. I don't want to talk about it. It's your guys' fight. I harbor a lot of anger and resentment at them for it, and I hate that. But they refuse the conversation because I believe they know I'm right. Commenter 4. How can she prove that she has cancer when her husband isn't even allowed to go to appointments? I want to see labs. I want to see doctors' names. I want prognosis. I want the doctor's notes, or it's fake. OP responds, I'm completely with you on this one. Whenever someone tries this line with sister-in-law, she bursts into tears and screams at them for accusing her of lying about something that is going to tear her away from her son and husband soon. I think I'm a lot harder-hearted than my wife's family because I don't give a shit about that line. But I did get her a free hospice stay. I work with the hospice. A couple years ago when she was supposedly on death's door. Without details, they did confirm she had cancer, but as you rightly point out, who knows now? She hasn't done anything to treat it though, so I imagine it's still there, just not aggressive at all. Commenter 5. Not the asshole, but this whole thing is way above Reddit's pay grade. Your wife needs counseling to help her work through her issues. There's a reason she keeps going back, and she needs help identifying and addressing those things. Are you sure sister actually has cancer? OP responds, yeah, my wife gets regular counseling to help her. We're a very mental health focused household. We both work with kids. We both have a background in psych. But the problem is that sister-in-law gets given the power to collapse my wife's relationships with the entire family. I harbor resentment toward them for that, but I try my best to just support my wife. I very rarely say what she should or shouldn't do, but it's getting to the point now where I can't protect her unless she can protect herself. She definitely had cancer. She's had operations and been in hospice care, but I have no idea where it's at now. She eats like complete rubbish and refuses to take medicine. It's like she keeps herself sick to maintain the power and control. Commenter 6. I'm curious as to what kind of cancer she has. Is it metastatic? Has it gone away and come back? I'm asking because you can easily research trials going on, survival rate, new treatments, etc. Information about her cancer will give you ideas of how to combat the "I'm dying" response. I would cut off everyone who blames your wife or criticizes her for setting up a boundary. If this means not having a lot of family to go to, so be it. At the end of the day, you need to be able to live peacefully. Her sister sounds toxic. Her sister knows your wife will go back to her, and so there aren't any repercussions for her behavior. She gets away with her moods and toxic behavior because no one has said enough is enough. If everyone walked away, then she'd be forced to do some internalizing, but even then she might play victim. Not the asshole, in case that wasn't abundantly clear. OP responds, "It's gone and come back. It was gone, and then my wife and I had our wedding where people flew in from overseas, and suddenly, while everyone was here, it came back. Then it was gone. Then on my wife's birthday, it came back." I've tried to make that same point to my wife, but honestly, sister-in-law has constant access to them all and uses her illness to abuse them and call them abusive if they stand up to her. And that's where so far it seems to be concluded. I'll keep an eye out if the saga continues, and I'll just simply slap on the new updates to it, and I'll just kind of upload it as a second upload for that day or something along those lines, if I see more updates coming out. Well, sounds like she reeled back in her husband at the end there, but I've been kind of sprinkling my thoughts throughout here, but I still very much stand by the idea where, unless of course she was dealing with some kind of like metastasized cancer within her brain that was affecting her behavior, why would you want your family's last memories of you to be that of you being a complete piece of shit? Like, assuming of course she is dying from cancer and has just been ungodly lucky with the amount of time she's survived the 1% survival rate. I personally, and this is just because this has happened to me and I've seen this playbook before, think that they're just using the cancer as a way to get exactly what they want. It's non-terminal, it's just there, but they're claiming that it is, that they're going to die. That's why they're so secretive with the doctor's appointments, so they can hold that over everyone's head, and no one can be mad at them because the entire family is just going to push over, because the moment they try to push any resistance, well, I'm gonna die soon, and is this really how you want to remember me? Honestly, just fucking hit them with, yeah, but is this really how you want me to remember you? Like, seriously, do you want your family to be relieved when you finally fucking close your eyes? Because OP in this post is actively making plans around her death. That's not even, of course, mentioning the fact that she's not actively, if she is terminally sick, doing anything to make herself better or improve her standard of living. She's just actively doubling down on everything around her being absolute hell. From her diet, from not taking medication, to how she treats everyone. I wouldn't fucking be surprised if she stopped the divorce by just simply hitting him with the, "Do you really want me to die alone?" Or some shit like that. So now the husband's like, okay, I guess I'll buckle in for one more year then. Like, if her diagnosis is real and she does have terminal cancer, but she's been surviving this long and beating the odds, you just gotta wonder at that point in time when the devil is just deciding, I'm not fucking ready for you yet, you stay up there. I have no idea what I would do with receiving a terminal diagnosis like that. But I certainly fucking wouldn't do this. I wouldn't make everyone's life around me hell because I was dealt a bad hand. Instead, I would try to live every day to the goddamn fullest and just try to experience what I have left and make sure that when I do pass, that people will mourn me and not be relieved that my bullshit's finally over. Good God. Anyways, I guess it's time for the outro, huh? Don't forget, gamer subs, use code EYES at checkout for 10% off of every purchase. If you're not quite ready to commit to a $40 purchase of a tub of one single flavor, you can always get yourself a free sample pack mailed to you and, figure out what you like and if it's something up your alley. I've been noticing a lot of you actually went and purchased the Oz Cup, have been sending me photos, and I didn't realize those came with sample packs, and, yeah, I'm happy you guys seem to be really enjoying those, and apparently there was also a sticker in there too that I was 100% unaware of. So that's super cool. Crossing my fingers that I'll get access to their drop soon, because I did hit the threshold for that, and I'm hoping that next time I hit the threshold for flavor. That'd be great. Ugh. But hey, thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel, whether it's memberships, gamer subs, watching the whole video, commenting, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, or even just, being a silent viewer who doesn't really interact but you still watch every day because this has become part of your morning routine. Thank you to all of you. And for now, take care, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.